The galaxy stood at the edge of darkness. Despite victories, the Rin continued to advance, their fleets spreading like shadows across star systems. Each world they touched fell silent. Its people lost a cold efficiency. Rumors whispered that the Rin were not only machines but something older, something that fed on order and silence. To them, chaos, creativity, and life itself were imperfections to erase. In Elindra's palace, Marcus Hale prepared for what everyone sensed would be the final test. The council chambers were filled with commanders, scientists, and nobles, their voices tense as they argued about strategies. The air felt heavy, filled with the weight of fear and expectation. At the center of it all stood Princess Sirenia, calm yet resolute, her glowing eyes focused not only on the war but on the hope that still remained. Marcus had grown used to the stares. Where once he was seen as an outsider, now eyes followed him with a mix of respect and quiet awe. The human had done the impossible. He had led victories where defeat was certain, had inspired soldiers who had once dismissed him, and had shown the Kareth what their perfection could not achieve alone. But even he knew the battles so far were only shadows of what was coming. The Rin had begun gathering their full strength. Scouts reported a massive fleet converging near the border of the Empire, larger than anything seen before. Their target was not a minor colony or a border world. Their target was Elindra itself, the heart of the Kareth Empire. When the news spread, fear shook the people. Panic rippled through the cities, and even the proud generals grew pale. But Sirenia did not falter. She called her commanders together, and Marcus stood at her side as always. "We will not run," Sirenia declared, her voice carrying through the chamber. "If the Rin come for Elindra, they will find not fear but fire. They will see what it means to face not just the Kareth but humanity as well. This world will stand, and so will we." Her words lit sparks of courage in those gathered. Marcus felt it too. Though deep inside, he knew this would not be a simple defense. This would be the battle that decided not only the fate of Elindra, but perhaps the future of the galaxy itself. Preparations began at once. Fleets were recalled from distant systems, defenses strengthened, weapons charged. Soldiers trained day and night, both Kareth and humans working side by side. Marcus trained with them, showing them human tactics of improvisation, guerrilla movement, and flexibility. He taught them to adapt, to expect the unexpected, to fight not like machines but like living beings unwilling to surrender. The night before the battle, Marcus found himself walking through the palace gardens. The glowing plants swayed in the wind, casting soft light across the stone paths. Sirenia was there, standing beside the fountain, her face lit by the gentle shimmer of alien stars. "You should rest," Marcus said quietly. "I cannot," Sirenia replied. "Tomorrow everything changes. I think of my people, of the millions who look to me, and I wonder if I can carry that weight." Marcus stepped closer, his voice steady. "You've carried it all this time. You've led them, given them hope, given them strength. You're more ready than you believe, and no matter what happens, you're not alone." Sirenia looked at him, her gaze softening. "No, I am not. That is why I chose you, Marcus Hale. Long before they sent you, long before you stood before me in chains, I knew you were the one. You carry within you something the Rin will never understand, a spark that cannot be extinguished." For a long moment they stood in silence, the stars above them endless and vast. Then Sirenia whispered, "Tomorrow we fight not just for Elindra, but for every world that still dreams of freedom." The next day, the Rin arrived. The sky above Elindra darkened as their fleet descended, black ships blotting out the stars. The ground trembled as their weapons charged, and across the planet alarms screamed. But the defenders were ready. Fleets rose from the surface, shimmering with shields and firepower, taking formation in the upper atmosphere. On the ground, soldiers prepared for invasion, weapons in hand, eyes burning with determination. Marcus stood on the command deck of the flagship beside Sirenia. The air was tense, alive with the hum of energy weapons and the distant rumble of engines. Through the viewports, the Rin fleet stretched endlessly, their ships moving in perfect formation like a wall of death. "They will come at us directly," Marcus said, studying the holographic display. "They'll try to crush us with sheer numbers. But they don't understand how we fight. We don't just stand and take it. We move, we adapt, we strike where it hurts." Sirenia nodded. "Then show them. Show them what it means to face humanity's fire." The battle began with a roar of energy. The Rin ships advanced, black shadows streaking with crimson beams. The Kareth fleet met them head-on, weapons blazing, shields flashing under the assault. The void lit up with fire and destruction, explosions blooming like stars dying in silence. Marcus directed the formations with precision. Flank right, scatter and regroup. Don't give them a wall to crush, give them a storm to chase. The smaller Kareth ships darted unpredictably, weaving between enemy formations, striking weak points and vanishing before the Rin could adapt. The larger ships provided cover, firing powerful blasts that tore through enemy hulls. The battle became chaos, the kind of chaos the Rin could not comprehend. On the ground, waves of Rin machines descended, black metal soldiers marching with mechanical precision. Kareth and human defenders fought fiercely, using terrain, traps, and ambushes to slow the advance. Marcus's teaching showed in every corner, fighters striking from unexpected angles, retreating only to strike again, refusing to fight the way the Rin demanded. Hours turned into an endless storm of fire and steel. The Rin pressed harder, their ships replacing each other as fast as they fell, their ground forces advancing step by step. But for every inch they gained, they paid in blood and wreckage. Then came the heart of the storm. The Rin flagship emerged, a colossal ship larger than any seen before, its black hull covered in glowing red lines. It pulsed with energy, a symbol of their cold power. From its core, a weapon charged, aimed at Elindra itself. If it fired, the city would be destroyed, and with it, the heart of the Empire. On the command deck, silence fell as the weapon powered. Marcus stared at the display, his mind racing. This was the moment. If they failed now, everything was lost. "We can't outgun it," said one of the admirals, panic in his voice. "No," Marcus replied slowly. "But we don't have to. We just have to be unpredictable." He turned to Serenia. "Give me a team. I'll lead a strike inside that ship. If we can destroy its core, we end this." Serenia's eyes widened. "It's suicide." Marcus's voice was firm. "It's a chance, and that's all we need." For a moment she hesitated, torn between duty and fear. Then she placed her hand on his arm. "Go, and may the stars guide you." Marcus gathered a small group of human and Kareth soldiers, boarding a stealth craft that darted through the chaos of battle. They slipped past enemy lines, dodging fire and debris until they reached the massive flagship. With skill and luck, they pierced its defenses and forced their way inside. The halls of the ship were cold, silent, and filled with endless lines of Rin soldiers. The team fought their way forward, every step a desperate struggle against the unfeeling machines. Sparks flew, metal clashed, and energy blasts lit the corridors. Marcus led from the front, his instincts guiding him through the maze of steel and shadow. At last they reached the core, a vast chamber pulsing with crimson light, filled with energy conduits and humming machines. The weapon was charging, the power building toward destruction. Marcus looked at his team. Many were wounded, some already fallen, but their eyes burned with determination. He gave a final nod. For Elindra, for humanity, for the galaxy. They planted charges, fighting off wave after wave of Rin as the timer ticked down. Marcus himself faced the last defenders, his blade flashing, his body burning with exhaustion but refusing to fall. The core exploded in light. The flagship trembled, then erupted in a chain of fire that tore through its massive hull. Across the battlefield, the Rin faltered, their coordination shattering as their command ship fell. The defenders seized the moment, striking with all their strength, pushing the invaders back until the void was filled with broken ships and silence. When the smoke cleared, Elindra still stood. The Rin had been defeated. Not destroyed, not erased, but broken, forced to retreat into the shadows. For now the galaxy was safe. Marcus returned to the palace, wounded but alive. Serenia met him at the gates, her eyes shining with relief. She placed her hand on his cheek and whispered, "You did it. You kept your promise." Marcus smiled faintly, exhaustion heavy in his voice. "We did it. Together." The people of Elindra celebrated, their songs and lights filling the night. Humans and Kareth stood side by side, their bond sealed in fire and blood. No longer strangers, no longer divided, but united by courage and trust. As the stars rose over Elindra, Serenia stood beside Marcus, gazing into the endless sky. "This is only the beginning," she said softly. "The Rin will return. Shadows always do. But now we know we can face them. And with you by my side, with humanity's spark guiding us, the galaxy has hope." Marcus nodded, his eyes on the horizon. He knew the battles ahead would be fierce, the challenges endless. But he also knew one truth above all. Marcus Hale's reputation in the palace changed overnight. The assassination attempt had not only revealed hidden dangers, but also shown how quick and sharp a human soldier could be. He had saved Princess Serenya's life in front of the most loyal Kareth guards, and though they did not admit it aloud, many of them now looked at him differently. Some carried respect in their eyes, while others carried something colder, resentment. The nobles were no different. In the great halls, whispers followed Marcus wherever he went. Some spoke of him as if he were a reckless brute who had gotten lucky. Others, more quietly, wondered if the human might actually be a figure of importance, chosen for reasons beyond politics. But Marcus cared little for their whispers. His focus remained on the princess. Serenya herself had changed toward him. She spoke to him often now, in moments when the palace grew quiet. When she walked through the gardens, she asked him to join. When she studied in the library, she sometimes turned and asked about Earth's history. Marcus, though not a scholar, explained what he knew. He told her about Earth's wars, about how humans fought each other for centuries but always survived. He spoke of oceans that stretched farther than sight, of storms that tore cities apart but left life blooming afterward. Serenya listened with deep interest, her glowing eyes watching him as if every word mattered. Yet there was something in her gaze Marcus could not explain. She looked at him not as an assigned guard, not even as a foreign ally, but as someone she had been waiting for. Her words on the night of the attack still echoed in his mind. Long before they sent you, I already knew you would come. He wanted to ask her again what she meant, but a soldier's place was not to press a royal for secrets, so he remained silent, though his thoughts were restless. The palace itself was far from peaceful. The failed assassination had shaken the royal court. Investigations spread through the halls. Guards doubled their patrols and nobles argued in private chambers. Some claimed the attack was the work of rival alien empires. Others whispered it came from factions within the Kareth nobility who disliked Serenya's openness toward humans. Marcus noticed how their eyes grew colder each time the princess defended him, and he knew more danger would come. One evening, during a royal gathering, the tension became clear. Serenya had appeared in the council chamber with Marcus standing behind her, silent and still like a shadow. Alien nobles filled the chamber, their tall forms draped in glowing garments, their voices sharp as they debated trade routes and military strength. At first, Marcus was nothing but a figure in the background, but when one noble raised his voice, the whole room turned toward him. "Why is he here?" the noble spat, pointing toward Marcus. His luminous eyes burned with disdain. "A human guard standing in our council chamber? This is a violation of our traditions. Does the princess value an outsider more than her own people?" The chamber fell silent, all eyes moving between Serenya and Marcus. Marcus kept his stance steady, his expression unreadable, though he could feel the weight of their judgment pressing against him. Serenya rose from her seat with calm authority. "Lieutenant Hale is not just a guard. He is proof that alliances are built on trust, not empty words. He has already saved my life when others failed," the noble sneered. "A single act of chance does not make him worthy. He does not belong in this chamber. He does not belong near our throne." Marcus expected Serenya to dismiss the argument, but instead she turned to face the chamber fully. Her voice grew stronger. "You speak as if you know the future. Yet I tell you this, humans are not lesser. They are different. And sometimes difference is the strength that saves us." The nobles muttered among themselves, their discontent rising. Marcus kept his posture firm, but inside he felt the weight of her words. She had defended him openly in front of her people, even risking her authority to do so. He wondered again why she placed such faith in him. He had trained all his life to protect, yes, but he had never been told he was more than just a soldier. That night, as Marcus patrolled the outer gardens, Serenya joined him. She walked beside him in silence for a while, the glowing plants casting faint light across her silver hair. Finally, she spoke. "They do not understand you," she said quietly. "They do not understand your people." Marcus glanced at her. "Maybe because they see us as young and untested. Compared to your empire, humanity is still learning how to stand." "Perhaps," she said, her voice thoughtful. "But I have seen things they have not." "I have seen what lies ahead." Marcus frowned. "What do you mean?" Serenya stopped walking. Her glowing eyes met his, steady and calm. "When I was a child, I was shown fragments of the future. Some of my people believe such visions are only illusions, but I know what I saw. In every vision, humanity rose to stand beside us, not as servants, not as allies of convenience, but as something more. And in those visions, I saw you. Marcus froze. The words struck him harder than any weapon. You saw me? He asked carefully. Yes, she said simply. Not by name, but by presence. Always there was a human who stood beside me. Always it was you. Marcus tried to make sense of her words. He was a soldier, trained to fight and protect, not to believe in visions or destinies. Yet he could not deny the way she looked at him, the way she had spoken even before Earth sent him. Part of him wanted to dismiss it as royal mystery, but another part whispered that perhaps she was telling the truth. Before he could reply, a sudden sound broke the moment. The sharp hum of weapons echoed through the garden. Marcus reacted instantly, pulling Serenia behind a stone pillar as blasts of energy tore through the air. Cloaked figures emerged from the shadows, another attempt on the princess's life. Marcus drew his weapon and fired with precision, his instincts guiding him where alien logic might fail. He moved quickly, using cover, forcing the attackers into positions where their numbers meant less. Serenia stayed low but calm, her eyes never leaving him as he fought. The alien palace guards arrived moments later, surrounding the attackers and forcing them to retreat. When it was over, Marcus lowered his weapon, breathing heavily. Serenia rose, unshaken, and looked at him again with that same strange certainty. You see, she said softly, you were always meant to be here. Even when shadows rise, you are the one who stands. Marcus wiped the sweat from his brow, his eyes narrowing. Your Highness, if these attacks continue, you must understand something. I will fight for you. I will fight until my last breath. But I need to know why they are coming for you. Serenia's expression grew somber. Because change is feared, and I am the one who carries it. The visions I saw, they are not only about you, they are about what is coming. There is a darkness rising in the galaxy, one that even my people fear to name. And when it comes, it will not be our perfection that saves us. It will be the strength of those who can adapt, those who can see what others cannot. That is why you matter. Marcus stood in silence, his mind struggling between the duty drilled into him and the possibility that he was part of something larger than orders. He looked at her, seeing not just a princess but a leader who carried both hope and burden. He felt the stir of something new in his chest, not just duty, not just loyalty, but something harder to define. For the rest of the night, he stood guard outside her chambers, his weapon ready, his eyes sharp. But his thoughts were no longer simple. He wondered about the vision she spoke of. He wondered about the darkness rising. And he wondered why, out of all the humans in the galaxy, she had said it was always him. The days that followed the second assassination attempt were tense, filled with quiet suspicion and careful observation. Marcus Hale moved through the palace with the same vigilance he always had, yet now there was an added weight to his watch. He had saved Princess Serenia's life twice, but neither of them could ignore the subtle, persistent danger lurking within the Empire's walls. Every shadow seemed to whisper secrets, and every glance from the court hinted at hidden motives. Marcus knew the palace had eyes everywhere, and he had to trust neither human instincts nor alien protocol alone. Serenia, meanwhile, carried herself with her usual grace, though Marcus could see faint lines of concern around her eyes. They spent more time together now, walking through the palace gardens and observing the glowing plants that seemed to pulse with life. Marcus began to notice the way the princess spoke about the galaxy, not with fear or arrogance, but with knowledge that carried the weight of experience. She spoke of planets lost, alliances broken, and empires that had risen and fallen long before Earth had left its cradle. And yet, when she spoke to Marcus, her tone shifted, softer, almost personal, as if sharing something she could not reveal to anyone else. One evening, they walked along a high terrace overlooking the silver rivers that wound through the city. The sky was filled with stars, and Marcus felt the vastness of space pressing down on him. Serenia stopped and leaned against the railing, her gaze fixed on the horizon. I want to show you something, she said, her voice low but firm. Marcus tilted his head. What do you mean, Your Highness? She turned to him, her glowing eyes locking onto his. Not here. There is a chamber in the palace forbidden to most. I have never brought anyone there. But I want you to see it. Marcus felt a flicker of caution. A forbidden chamber? She nodded. It is part of my inheritance. It holds the knowledge of my people's past and the glimpses of our possible futures. You may not understand it fully, but I need you to know. Intrigued and cautious, Marcus followed her through hidden corridors he had never seen before. The air grew cooler, the walls carved with strange, intricate symbols that seemed to shimmer faintly as they passed. Eventually they reached a large circular door, etched with glowing runes. Serenia pressed her hand against the door, and it opened silently, revealing a room bathed in a soft, ethereal light. Inside, the chamber was filled with floating orbs and holographic projections, images of distant stars and worlds Marcus had never imagined. Some orbs displayed entire civilizations, spinning slowly as though showing their history in motion. Others projected strange, shifting symbols that Marcus could not comprehend. In the center of the room was a platform with a crystal pedestal, glowing with a light that seemed alive. "This is the Oracle Chamber," Serenia explained. "It is where my people have seen fragments of the future for generations. Some dismiss it as superstition, but I have always known there is truth here. I was shown visions as a child, glimpses of what is to come." Marcus stepped closer, his eyes wide. "Visions of the future?" "Yes," Serenia said, her voice steady. "But not only of my people, of others as well. Of humans." She paused, her gaze meeting his. "I saw your kind in those visions, Marcus. I saw you." He frowned, struggling to understand. "Me? How could that be?" "I've only just arrived here." Serenia shook her head. "It is not about time as we know it. These visions are glimpses of possibilities, of events that might happen. They show what is most likely when certain choices are made. And in every vision where our empire faced collapse, there was always a human by my side. Always you, Marcus Hale." Marcus felt a strange chill. "Why me?" he asked quietly. "I'm just a soldier." "You are more than that," she said, stepping closer. "Humans have a spark that my people often overlook. You think of possibilities in ways we do not. You act without overanalyzing, you adapt, you survive. And when survival requires courage, humans do not hesitate. That is why you were always meant to be here. That is why I chose you, even before anyone knew you would arrive." Marcus ran his hand over the pedestal, feeling the energy radiating from it. "I don't know if I can live up to that," he admitted. "I've trained to protect, yes, but I've never been told I was part of something larger." Serenia smiled faintly, a mixture of hope and certainty in her eyes. "You are, and soon you will see why." She gestured to one of the floating orbs, which shifted to show a scene of a distant star system under attack. Massive ships, dark and angular, fired upon defenseless colonies. Marcus recognized immediately the kind of destruction that could wipe out entire populations in hours. "These are the Rin," Serenia said, "a machine-like species thought to be extinct. They were driven out centuries ago, but they have returned, and they will not stop until the galaxy is theirs." Marcus studied the orb, his mind racing. "And humans are supposed to help fight them?" Serenia nodded. "Yes, but it is not just your people's weapons or numbers that matter. It is your creativity, your unpredictability, your will to fight even against impossible odds. That is what I saw in the visions. That is why you matter, Marcus. Not because of orders or politics or rank. Because only a human could turn the tide when the time comes." Marcus felt a mix of awe and disbelief. "You're saying humanity is more important than we've been told?" She placed her hand gently on his shoulder. "We have underestimated you, always. But I have seen what you can be, and I need you to understand it before the darkness arrives. Your role is not just to protect me, it is to help protect the future of the galaxy." For a long moment, Marcus stared at the orbs, seeing the possibilities unfold. He imagined himself standing among alien soldiers, making choices that no one expected, saving lives in ways that logic alone could not predict. He realized that this was not just about duty or loyalty, this was about destiny, his, humanity's, and the fate of countless worlds. Serenia spoke again, her voice soft but firm. "I chose you, Marcus, because I saw you before anyone else did. You have the strength to stand where others would falter, and soon you will need to prove it." Marcus swallowed, the weight of her words pressing down on him. He had always thought of himself as capable, trained, ready for anything. But this was unlike anything he had imagined. The stakes were higher than he could have ever known. And yet, in the pit of his stomach, a spark of resolve ignited. If the princess believed in him, if the visions were true, then he could not fail. The next days were a whirlwind of preparation and observation. Marcus trained with Kareth guards, learning their techniques while subtly incorporating human unpredictability. He observed their strategies, noting their rigid patterns and how easily they could be anticipated. He began sharing subtle suggestions with Serenya's inner circle, who were wary but intrigued by the results. Each exercise, each drill, reinforced what he had already begun to understand. Humans, though underestimated, had a unique strength that could change outcomes. Serenya, meanwhile, guided him gently, explaining the politics of the Empire, the hidden alliances, and the fragile peace that held the galaxy together. She trusted him with knowledge that even the Kareth elite were not allowed to know. Marcus felt the trust deeply, and it strengthened his resolve. He was no longer just a soldier. He was part of a larger plan, part of something that had been set in motion long before he had arrived. One evening, Marcus returned to the Oracle chamber alone. He needed time to think, to process everything he had learned. The chamber was quiet, the orbs floating lazily, projecting worlds in endless motion. He approached the central pedestal and placed his hands on the crystal surface, feeling the energy thrumming beneath his palms. It was almost alive, as if responding to his presence. He thought of Earth, of his family, of the people who had trained him to be ready for anything. And he thought of Serenya, who had placed faith in him when no one else would. A quiet determination settled over him. The galaxy was vast, filled with dangers no one on Earth had imagined. But if he had been chosen for this moment, if the visions were true, then he would rise to meet it. He would protect the princess, yes, but more than that, he would stand as a human among the stars, showing what his people were capable of. And as he left the chamber, the light of the floating orbs following him silently, Marcus felt a sense of purpose he had never known before. The shadows of the future were still uncertain, but for the first time, he understood that humanity's spark might be the key to turning them into light. The galaxy was about to test him, and he was ready to meet it. The calm of Alindra's palace had been shattered. Reports of Rin activity had reached the royal council, and even in the grandeur of glowing halls, fear crept like a shadow. The machine-like invaders, long thought extinct, had begun attacking, border worlds with speed and precision that stunned even the Kareth admirals. Entire colonies were falling, and the Empire's fleet struggled to keep up. Marcus Hale, standing at Serenya's side, felt the tension in every corridor, every council chamber, every patrol. It was in the war room that Marcus first saw the full scale of the threat. Holographic projections of star systems displayed the movement of Rin forces. Their ships were black, angular, and immense, designed for destruction rather than beauty. The Kareth commanders spoke in technical terms Marcus barely recognized, discussing formations, shields, and weapon ranges. Yet amidst the alien terminology, Marcus noticed patterns that no one else did. The Rin, though relentless and precise, relied on predictable strategies. They adapted, yes, but not in ways humans might. There was rigidity beneath their seeming perfection. He stepped forward carefully. If you let them advance in the same formation, we can anticipate their moves. Use the flanks and smaller ships in irregular patterns. They won't expect it. The room went silent. Alien officers exchanged glances, some skeptical, some intrigued. Serenya watched him with quiet encouragement, her glowing eyes conveying the trust that had grown between them. One admiral finally spoke, his voice tinged with doubt. A human suggests strategy? Do you understand the scale of their fleets? Marcus nodded. I understand enough. They may be machine-like, but machines follow rules. Humans know how to break rules and create unpredictability. That can be our advantage. Serenya stepped forward, her voice calm yet commanding. He speaks the truth. I trust his judgment. Despite the initial reluctance, the council allowed Marcus to present his plan. He suggested splitting the Kareth forces into smaller, more flexible units, moving unpredictably across the battlefield. It was unorthodox, risky even, but it played to the strengths humans often relied on: adaptation, improvisation, and the willingness to take bold action when the situation demanded. Preparations began immediately. Marcus worked with the Kareth officers, showing them how to maneuver in ways they had never attempted before. He taught them to observe not just the enemy's strength, but their patterns, their predictable tendencies. The aliens were slow to adapt, but under Serenya's unwavering support they began to trust his instincts. Days later, the Rin made their first major strike on a border system. The Kareth fleet advanced to meet them, vast ships gleaming under alien suns. Marcus, positioned on the flagship beside Serenya, felt the tension tighten in his chest. The Rin fleet moved in perfect formation, their black ships gliding like predators through space. But Marcus had studied them, analyzed them, and knew where their rigidity would falter. Flank left, he instructed, pointing to a smaller group of agile Kareth ships. They won't expect it. Draw them in, then collapse on their rear. Timing is everything. The alien commanders hesitated, exchanging uncertain glances. But Serenya's gaze held steady. Do as he says, she commanded. The maneuver began. Smaller Kareth ships darted along unexpected paths, baiting the Rin forward. Marcus watched the projections, feeling the tension as both fleets closed in. Then, at the precise moment, the Yao main force struck from behind, catching the Rin off guard. The clash was intense. Massive blasts lit the void of space. Ships twisted and fell in explosions of fire and energy. Marcus's pulse raced, his hands steady on the control panel as he coordinated the units with clear, concise commands. By the time the battle ended, the Rin had retreated, their forces shattered and disorganized. The Kareth had won, but at great cost. Many ships were lost, and Marcus could see the fatigue in the faces of the alien officers. Yet there was a new respect in their eyes when they looked at him. The human had not only survived, but had led them to victory using methods they could barely comprehend. In the aftermath, Marcus and Serenya walked through the fleet command area. The wounded were being treated, and officers discussed repairs and strategy. Serenya placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. You see, she said softly, this is why I chose you. Not because of your strength, not because of your training, but because of your mind. You can see what others cannot. Marcus shook his head, still processing the intensity of the battle. It wasn't just me. It was all of us working together. But, thank you, Your Highness. I only did what I could. She smiled faintly. You did more than you know. Today, humans are no longer just allies. Today, you showed the galaxy what we always underestimated. You showed them your spark. As the days passed, the Rin attacks grew more frequent. Marcus continued to guide the Kareth forces, using unorthodox tactics that combined human unpredictability with alien technology. They learned to move like shadows, striking in unexpected places, avoiding the Rin's strongest positions, and exploiting weak points in their formations. Each victory was hard-won, but it strengthened the alliance between humans and Kareth soldiers. Even skeptical nobles began to acknowledge Marcus's value, though some did so quietly, unwilling to admit it openly. Amidst the battles, Marcus and Serenya spent quiet moments together, discussing not only strategy but also the weight of leadership. She spoke of the responsibilities she bore as the heir to the empire, of the countless lives depending on her decisions. Marcus shared stories of Earth, of human struggles and resilience. In these moments, a deep trust formed between them, unspoken yet strong. One evening, after a particularly brutal skirmish, Marcus found himself alone on a balcony, staring at the stars. The sky was vast, endless, and yet filled with danger. He thought of Earth, of the people he had left behind, and of the mission he now faced. The Rin were relentless, their machines precise, yet he had seen a weakness in their logic. If humans and Kareth could act together, if they could combine unpredictability with advanced technology, they could survive, and perhaps even turn the tide of war. Serenya joined him silently, her presence calming. She did not speak at first, simply observing the stars beside him. Finally, she said, You understand now, don't you? This is bigger than either of us alone. The galaxy is changing, and your people are part of that change. Marcus nodded. I see it, Your Highness. And I will do everything I can to protect you, your people, and the future. I don't fully understand it all, but I know humans have a role to play. I won't fail. She placed a hand on his arm, her touch gentle but firm. I know you won't. That is why I chose you, Marcus. I knew even before they sent you that you would stand when it mattered most. The following weeks were a blur of activity. Marcus coordinated defense plans, led missions to reinforce vulnerable worlds, and trained human and Kareth soldiers alike in strategies that combined the best of both species. Each engagement with the Rin tested their skills, forcing them to adapt constantly. Marcus's quick thinking and unorthodox tactics often turned desperate situations into victories, earning him respect that even the most traditional Kareth generals could no longer ignore. One day, during a mission to defend a mining colony under attack, Marcus led a small strike team of humans and Kareth soldiers deep into enemy territory. The Rin had surrounded the colony, their massive ships blocking escape routes. Using a combination of human improvisation and alien technology, Marcus devised a plan that drew the enemy into a trap. His team moved quickly, coordinating with precision, striking weak points and cutting off the Rin's escape. By the time reinforcements arrived, the colony was safe, and the Rin were forced to retreat once more. When the battle was over, the Kareth soldiers cheered, lifting Marcus on their shoulders despite their usual pride. Serena watched from the command deck, a faint smile on her face, pride and trust in her eyes. Marcus realized in that moment that he was no longer just a guard. He was a bridge between worlds, a symbol of humanity's potential, and a reminder that courage, creativity, and determination could shape destiny itself. That night, as Marcus stood guard outside Serena's chambers, he reflected on the battles, the strategies, and the moments of quiet trust shared with the princess. The Rin were far from defeated, but humanity's spark had shown its value. Marcus understood now that the future was uncertain, but with determination, adaptability, and the trust of those who believed in him, even the greatest threats could be faced. Serena appeared at the doorway, her glowing eyes meeting his. You have done well, Marcus. More than I could have hoped for. But the trials are not over. The darkness has only begun to stir. We must be ready. Marcus nodded, his resolve firm. I will be ready, Your Highness. Whatever comes, we will face it together. She smiled faintly, her voice filled with quiet certainty. Yes. Together, we will face it. And as the night settled over Alindra, Marcus Hale knew that the battles ahead would test every skill, every instinct, and every ounce of courage he possessed. But he also knew that humanity had a spark that no machine, no empire, and no shadow of the galaxy could extinguish. Lieutenant Marcus Hale stood at the edge of the docking platform, the pale glow of alien structures stretching into the horizon. He had trained for years to become part of the Earth Defense Corps, and though he had served in dangerous missions before, nothing compared to the weight of the task he now carried. He was being sent as the personal guard of Princess Serena, heir to the Kareth Empire, one of the most advanced alien civilizations known to humankind. For Earth, this assignment was not just a gesture of trust, but also a chance to prove that humans could stand equal beside the great powers of the galaxy. The spaceport around him hummed with activity as alien ships of smooth silver and violet designs came and went. Marcus's sharp eyes observed everything, a habit drilled into him through years of training. The Kareth were taller than humans, with luminous eyes that seemed to glow faintly under the light. Their movements were graceful, almost too precise, as though they had been shaped by centuries of discipline and culture, far older than Earth's history among the stars. Marcus adjusted the strap of his uniform and tightened his gloves, standing firm as the representatives of Earth briefed him one last time. He nodded quietly, accepting orders without hesitation. Inside, however, he could not ignore the question that kept rising. Why him? Of all the trained soldiers, decorated officers, and political guards Earth could send, why had the Kareth requested him by name? When he stepped into the shuttle that would take him to the palace world, he carried little more than a standard-issue sidearm and the weight of responsibility. The trip was silent, the alien crew barely acknowledging him except for short nods. Marcus knew that among the Kareth nobility, humans were still considered crude and unrefined. Many of them saw this assignment as an insult to their traditions, yet Marcus did not allow doubt to show. His expression remained calm, his posture straight. If he had been chosen for this, he would fulfill the duty with every skill and ounce of loyalty he had. The palace world of Elindra was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. As the shuttle descended, vast cities unfolded like a dream. Towers of shimmering crystal and metal reaching toward the sky, woven together with floating bridges of light. Gardens of glowing plants spread across the surface, their colors shifting as though alive with emotion. Rivers of liquid silver wound through the landscape, reflecting the starlight above. The palace itself stood at the center of it all, a masterpiece of alien architecture carved from living stone that pulsed with faint energy. To Marcus it seemed less like a building and more like a being, ancient and proud. He was escorted into the grand hall, where hundreds of alien eyes turned to him. The nobles wore flowing garments that glittered with strange materials, their expressions mixed with curiosity and disdain. Whispers filled the air, subtle but sharp as they questioned why a mere human had been allowed into their most sacred space. Marcus ignored the whispers. His eyes scanned the hall, searching for threats, mapping every exit and measuring every distance. He knew that if he allowed even the smallest flicker of insecurity, the aliens would see him as weak. Then she entered, the princess he was sworn to protect. Sirenia moved with grace that silenced the hall. Her tall figure was draped in a gown woven with threads that shimmered like stars, and her silver hair cascaded around her shoulders. But it was her eyes that caught Marcus off guard. They glowed softly, not in the way of her people, but with a depth that felt directed at him alone. While others looked at him as an outsider, she looked at him as though she had known him for years. Marcus straightened instinctively, saluting with precision. She approached him, and when she spoke, her voice was calm but filled with something unspoken. "You are Marcus Hale of Earth," she said. "I welcome you to Elindra. Your presence here is not a formality. From this day, your life and mine are bound by duty." Marcus bowed slightly, his eyes meeting hers for only a moment. "I will protect you with my life, Your Highness. That is my oath." The nobles around them shifted uncomfortably, some muttering in disapproval. Yet Sirenia did not seem to notice. Her gaze lingered on Marcus a little longer than necessary, as if she wanted to say something else. Then she turned gracefully and led him to follow her through the palace corridors. Life in the palace was unlike any world Marcus had known. Every hallway was filled with statues that seemed to move when the light shifted. Strange symbols carved into the walls glowed faintly, pulsing as if alive. Guards in ornate armor stood silently at every corner, their weapons advanced far beyond anything Earth had created. Yet Marcus noticed one thing. They were rigid, almost predictable in their watch. Their eyes followed patterns, their stances too perfect. Unlike them, Marcus relied on instinct. His eyes darted toward shadows, his ears listened for whispers, and his body remained alert at all times. He felt the weight of unseen tension pressing on him. Sirenia often walked with him through the palace gardens, where strange creatures floated among glowing plants. She asked him about Earth, about its people, its oceans, its storms, its deserts. Marcus answered with simple honesty, describing the raw beauty of a world that had not yet reached the refinement of the Kareth. Sometimes she smiled faintly, as though his words reminded her of something precious. Yet other times she would grow silent, staring at him with eyes that held secrets. Marcus noticed it but never asked. A soldier's place was to obey, not to question. Days passed and Marcus began to sense hostility beneath the surface of palace life. Nobles would watch him closely, their words polite but edged with mockery. Guards whispered about him when they thought he could not hear. Once, during a formal gathering, a high-ranking noble openly questioned why a human had been given such a position. Sirenia silenced him with a single glance. But Marcus knew the resentment would not fade so easily. He had to prove his worth not with words but with actions. That chance came sooner than expected. One evening, as Sirenia walked alone in a secluded courtyard, Marcus trailing at a respectful distance, a shadow moved from the gardens. He reacted instantly, drawing his sidearm as a cloaked figure lunged toward the princess. The alien weapon in the attacker's hand glowed with deadly light, but Marcus did not hesitate. He sprinted forward, pushing Sirenia aside just as the weapon fired. The blast struck the wall, burning a hole through the stone. Marcus tackled the attacker, grappling with strength and precision. His training on Earth had taught him how to fight with speed and improvisation, unlike the rigid combat styles of the Kareth. Within moments, the attacker lay unconscious, disarmed and restrained. Alien guards rushed in, their expressions shocked. They had been moments too late. Serenia stood, her eyes wide, not with fear, but with something else, recognition. She looked at Marcus as though the event had not surprised her, as though she had known it would happen and that he would be the one to save her. She dismissed the guard's scolding words and placed her hand gently on Marcus's shoulder. "You acted without hesitation," she said softly, her voice only for him. "You see what others do not. This is why I chose you." Marcus frowned slightly, confused. "Chose me, Your Highness." "I was assigned?" She shook her head gently, her silver hair brushing against her face. "No, Marcus. Long before they sent you here, I already knew you would come." Her words struck him like a puzzle with missing pieces. Before he could ask what she meant, she turned away, commanding the guards to take the attacker for questioning. Marcus stood silently, his thoughts tangled. Duty demanded that he focus only on protection, yet her words clung to his mind like shadows. Why would she say she had chosen him? How could she have known long before Earth had even agreed to send him? That night, as Marcus stood guard outside her chambers, he replayed every detail of the day in his head. He thought of the way she had looked at him from the very first moment, the way she spoke as if she knew him. He thought of the hostility of the nobles, the strange silence of the guards, the hidden dangers that seemed to grow around the princess. And above all, he thought of her words. He had been a soldier all his life, trained to follow orders without question. But now, for the first time, Marcus felt the stir of something different, a sense that his path was not shaped by orders alone, but by something greater, something waiting to be revealed. And in the silence of the palace halls, he knew that his duty had only just begun.